Welcome back, everybody, to Ravenstar Switching Hour. I am your host, Solaris BluerRaven. I'm here with my excellent guest tonight, Kevin Estrella. Kevin, awesome information for the first hour here. I know we got into a little bit of the political side of it, but it's so nice and refreshing having a conversation with you. Now, we were touching on your radio show. Let's go there again.
Well, actually, I wanted to step back just a little bit further because we had briefly mentioned something which ties back into what we were talking about frequency and raising our vibrational frequency and finding seeing envisioning yourself surrounded in your light of your vibration of yourself, and it because of my journeys, meeting amazing people like yourself and other people like Michael Lee Hill, these important people to my journey of understanding where I'm supposed to be going and understanding myself. How you've helped me with understanding what DNA activation is, and then Michael Lee Hill was teaching me about the difference between standard tuning of 440 hertz versus 432 hertz. And this discovery is very important that people need to understand, and understand that we need to go back to 432 hertz tuning. And many people are going, what is he talking about? Well, music that we listen to today, 99.95% of it is tuned to what we call 440 standard tuning, which means that the A note is tuned to 440 hertz. Now, the question is, why? Where did that number come from? Well, here's the truth. That number is completely artificial. The real tuning of A is actually 432. So it's 8 hertz. It's 8 hertz lower. And this is very important, and many people are probably wondering, well, what's the difference? Why is that significant? Because that is the natural tuning of the universe. Natural tuning of the universe, of natural A. And where does that number come from? It actually comes from the golden ratio, or people also known as the Fibonacci sequence, the spiral of creation, all the fingerprint of God, so to speak. You see it in large systems like universes spinning. You see it in the smallest of acorns and everything of this golden spiral. It's sacred geometry. 432 is in that sequence. And our cochlea in our own ears is a spiral. This is why we have the cochlea is to regulate bad frequencies. Mm-hmm. The problem with our music is that all the music we're listening to is actually out of tune by 8 hertz, and it actually it was created as a standard back in, I think, 1938 by the American Standard Society, but it was originally adopted because of Joseph Goebbels, who was a Nazi scientist. Mm-hmm. So, there you go. So when you start looking at this, what's going on, that our own music we've listened to has actually been tampered with purposely to keep us out of tune of nature, so we do not feel our basically our spiritualness, that we realize that we're all spiritual beings. It creates almost a state of anxiety, of fear, of uncertainty. Mm-hmm. Our own music that we listen to has been tampered with just slightly enough to create a false matrix of uncertainty.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
When you start listening to music that's tuned to 432, you feel the difference. When you listen to 440 music, you feel the music more kind of in the front of your forehead. Mm-hmm. That's where it vibrates. When you hear 432 music, it goes straight. You feel it in your heart chakra. It's amazing. Mm-hmm. In fact, one radio interview I did, they played my music. It was on 432, and they said that the board lit up like they'd never seen before.
Mm-hmm. I believe that. Yeah. Makes a lot of sense there. Well, yeah, it's a resonance effect, and you're right. You're tuned in on that level with the 432 to the universal frequencies, opposed to what they're trying to do with is really just like you were saying, out of sync, putting people out of sync, disconnecting from the celestial design work, and that's so wrong. And I'm wondering, Kevin, with all the transmissions and signals they're using, which I know they use a lot of ultra low frequencies for mass mind control purposes and manipulation, whether people realize it or not. And I'm always wondering what they're using through the transmission of signal when they're using like CNN and these mainstream medias because they're so toxic. I mean, I don't know about you, but even if you're not listening to what they have to say, it's a noxious station. It's the vibration alone is like I can't stand it.
Hmm.
So I don't know how people sit there and let it just roll 24 hours. And, to me, it's like toxicity 101.
There's so much toxicity and so many avenues in everything of our lives that's done, in our food,
Mm-hmm.
in the air we breathe, the chemtrails, everything done to purposely um, block us from waking up and evolving spiritually.
Mm-hmm.
That is the problem. We can be so much more as a species when we lift these things up and start to protect ourselves in our light.
Mm-hmm.
um,
Yeah,
and
raising
that
the vibration. Absolutely.
raising the vibration, yeah. And that is why, through my music, I've gained such higher levels of consciousness that it keeps going higher and higher, and I cannot ignore it. But it's also more difficult, Solaris, and you'll be able to relate to this. When you reach a certain point where you then you step outside yourself, and you realize here you are living on this planet, and you have 1 foot on the ground and 1 foot in the air, and
Mm-hmm.
you feel that separation.
Yeah, you start to phase. Well,
You
that's
start
part
to
of it.
phase.
That's
Yeah.
also part of the molecular shifting that goes on through frequency because, as we all know, and Tesla told us this a long time ago, it's all based on frequency and consciousness, but also modulation of the wave of frequency. So when you're changing and altering your DNA through frequency, your whole body, your your complete system changes. Your molecular structure changes to accommodate the next frequency. And this is why there's that phase shifting ability where people can actually transfer into multiple spaces through consciousness because their whole body, their imprint is changing. It's so fascinating. What a science it is. And Kevin, this is why they do, like you were talking about, the control mechanisms with the 440 hertz, for example. That's all about limiting and dimming down the light body or dimming down the energetic signature. It's very sad that they do that. And of course, it was all about control.
Yeah. Yeah. And I never realized it until it was actually pointed out to me. But some musicians were actually onto it because, like Jimi Hendrix, he purposely tuned his guitar to E flat because he felt that the E was just not, it didn't feel right. So, okay, sure, he didn't tune to 432, but he probably didn't probably know about it. But if he did know about it, he would have tuned to 432.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that I've felt music differently when I listen to stuff that's tuned to 432, and my energy frequency changes too. So the more and more that I surround myself in this light, the more and more I feel myself raising. And then when I'm slapped back to earth again, and I'm back here trying to act like a normal person, that's where I really start to feel the shift, where it's
Mm-hmm.
like, because you end up feel like you're like two different people. And I really get that too from the people who I interview on my radio show who have been on board craft, who have been with extraterrestrials, who are hybrids themselves, who are at a higher level of vibration. And then it's like with stuff we talk about, and then it's like this whole complete phase shift. Like, my God, I feel like I'm living two different lives because
Mm-hmm.
I go to I live here on this planet and try and act normal with everybody else, but I also know the truth. And
Mm-hmm.
I also have seen the truth and the shift in regards to the amazing things that these people have experienced at a higher, beings who can, you know, they've been in the presence of extraterrestrials who have nothing but unconditional love,
Mm-hmm.
who they feel their love. They communicate telepathically. There's no division there. It's all oneness. They're all one, like the Borg, so to speak, but not the Borg. I mean, they're more like all we're all connected, so to speak, and that is what they're trying to teach everyone: is that there's no division. We are all one, and when you're in their presence, you feel love from them, like there's no division between your body and their body,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't want to leave it. It's, you even ask Tina Maria.
Oh yeah.
She's talked about it when she's met with the masters and described what it's like. Um, and other people who I've interviewed who've had the same experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, it's bliss without, I mean, it's just literally bliss. Yeah, I
it's
know that
literally
feeling
bliss.
too. But it's also, when people get to levels of light body into Merkaba, they can actually witness that because that's their oneness with source and also these other beings that are connected in because it is a busy multiverse. People don't seem to understand that it's a huge, it's this big fabric out there with all sorts of life forms and consciousness and species and that, once again, mainstream information has been censored since day one. So people don't have the real data. They don't even know their celestial heritage, Kevin. And this is the thing is we're not from here. None of us are from here. We have suits and they call them human. And well, you can call yourself whatever you want to call yourself. But if you check your DNA out, we're not from here. Truly, we're not. So
That's
I
right.
think that's the beauty of these people that you interview being, activated in some or on some level by the species they encounter. And in my opinion, I think that's just an aspect of them on a multidimensional space. It could be their celestial family, their star families. And also tell everybody the name of your radio show and how they can listen to it.
Oh yes, it's yeah, it's pretty easy. It's Pyramids on Mars UFO Radio, and
Nice.
you can find it on artistfirst.com. So
Cool.
artistfirst.com is a very large radio show. They have had over 210 million listeners in the last 64 months. That's how big they are.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's
And
beautiful.
there's like many people who have shows on that radio show, like Dr. Oz,
Oh, cool.
Priscilla Presley.
Nice.
Yeah. So there's
Wow, that's beautiful. I'm so glad you have that format. Then that's perfect for you.
yeah, and Martin Riley or Riley Martin, he was the original person who was doing their original UFO show, and he has had experiences with being on board the. There's a space station on the rings of Saturn, and he's been there. Now his show got so popular that he was getting like 100. He had 140,000 listeners per every episode. He got so big that Howard Stern bought him out.
Really? How
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
Wow.
So he ended up moving to Sirius XM Radio, and now they still have UFO shows on artistfirst.com, but now these listeners who used to listen to Riley Martin are now tuning in and checking out my show, and my show is growing and growing and growing, and
When
the network's already joked about saying, Kevin, if you keep this up with the high caliber of guests that you have, you're going to end up on the same path as Riley Martin. So
well, that's wonderful. I'm so glad to hear this. And how long has this been going on?
I've only had the radio show now for like 4 months.
Oh, congratulations. Well, I think it's fabulous. Yeah. Yeah, I can see you
Yeah.
taking off with that. So is it all ET themed or
Oh
what's the
yeah.
subject matter? Okay.
The subject matter is I interview abductees and hybrids.
Very nice.
Yeah, and I've interviewed two abductees and two hybrids so far.
Cool.
Yes, the hybrids who I've interviewed are Jojoli Kiyuta, and she is a reptilian hybrid.
Hmm.
Now people are like, "Yeah, right. What are you talking about, reptilian?" Those are like, that's science fiction. No, the reptilians are very real. There are reptilians on this planet. How do I know that I can believe her story is because she was introduced to me by Cynthia Crawford, who is a well-known hybrid in the world,
Mm-hmm.
and she actually witnessed her shapeshift while she was sleeping,
Oh, that's interesting.
full tail and everything.
Wow. Do you know if these people have implants at all or have you ever asked them?
Cynthia does not,
Okay.
and Jojoli does not either.
Okay.
My What I found from my interview with Jojoli is that she's very much similar to me. Actually, Sherry is the same way. Our ET, what frustrates us very much is that our ET family, as much as we've seen UFOs and stuff, they stay in the shadows. They do not really come out and have conscious contact with us. Sherry has only been able to recall stuff from under hypnosis, but and Jojoli, the only reason she realized who she was and what her mission was here in life is because she has, in dream states, in the same state that I was in when I got my download, which is basically just in the waking moments of when you're just coming out of a deep sleep and you're just about to wake up. You'll have a very, very vivid dream that you remember, and then you wake up and you remember that dream. So she will get snapshots of herself on her home planet of what is it? Faguai,
Hmm.
her home planet Faguai, where she actually worked as a coordinator for a resort.
Really? That's
Yes,
interesting.
yeah, her planet is very much like a tropical planet, and many beings would go to their planet to basically for R&R, believe it or not.
A
And she,
vacation, huh?
yeah, and she basically was a coordinator for this. So I used to joke about it. I actually wanted to say it on the radio. So I said, so when they land on the planet and you're there meeting them, do you say, "Welcome to Kyoto Island"?
Where's the
The plane
plane? No, I was
busted. The
gonna.
plane.
Oh no, boy, we're on the same wavelength. That's scary, Kevin. Oh my God, I'm dating
Oh,
myself.
she thought that was hilarious.
That's funny. Wow, I always have hardcore experiences, man. You guys have the nice vacations. Well, that's good. Yeah. Well, have you ever asked them about, or has anybody ever had any insight, maybe even yourself, about what's your impression of Nibiru or Planet X coming in? Do you have any insight on that?
I do a little bit.
Okay.
Nibiru is very real. I've gotten some insight from different people from different sources. Um, the most reliable one that I've gotten is from Michael Lee Hill, because he is a Anunnaki hybrid, and for people to understand his background, he became popular and well known for his videotaping of the lights over Lake Erie, and then he ended up on, it was all over the news, all over Fox News and stuff, and then he was like in the first season of UFO Hunters, and in that they wanted to do some blood tests on him, and when they did, they found an anomaly with his blood. They didn't understand what it meant. However, um, the military doctors knew what it meant,
Hmm.
and then Lockheed Martin got in touch with them and said, yes, you are an Anunnaki.
Really?
Or yeah.
Wow. Do you know what blood type he is? Just out of curiosity, is he a negative, Rh negative, or anything like that?
I think that's what it is.
Is he?
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
interesting.
yeah. And then he ended up into this program through Lockheed Martin, because they knew exactly that he was a hybrid. So some information has been shared with him about Nibiru.
Hmm.
I think we're still some years out before it comes. I think they mentioned something like the year 2035 or 2038, but it is on its way, and they have many groups of highly evolved people, I guess. Um, um, Channelers are basically working in groups to, as consciousness, to try and push Nibiru out of its orbit towards Earth and try and knock it so it doesn't have such a direct hit to the Earth. They're
Hmm.
trying to do that telepathically.
Hmm. Well, I know. Well, that's a different species, but they can certainly wink planets out if they wanted to. That's why I always laugh at the firepower here on this illusion of a planet. Even with our black space program, there's species out there that have phenomenal power and ability to destroy things through consciousness. I mean, that's literally how it was created. That's how life was created to begin with, through consciousness. Even though people don't realize that, but in the beginning, literally. So it's kind of interesting. You know what else? I was always calculating 2018 for something that's not necessarily Nibiru, but actually an incoming object that's very devastating. So we'll keep our sights on that one. But very, very interesting stuff. It's fascinating that you're interviewing these people, and I guess a lot of them, most of them, have gone through regression. Is that it?
Yes.
Okay, and you
Yeah.
yourself you've been through a regression, right?
Yes. Yes, I have.
Okay, so what do you think for people who are interested in, and maybe have had some, maybe they've been picked up? Do you think that's worth it to get a regression done?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They're not there to, make suggestions. You're very highly aware when you're under hypnosis. It's not like like you're very highly aware of where you are, what you're doing. What you're doing is you're just kind of, your brain is into a relaxed state so that you could have clearer memory.
Hmm.
Now, what happened for me was we did it because I wanted to try and uncover something that took place in around the year 1999, where I have some missing time, and I was trying to you know, see if I can get rid of that block, because it was really strange what happened to me. But essentially, we were up in Huntsville with Matt, my drummer, and my other singer. Went for a swim at nighttime. It was like cloudless sky. The moon was full moon. 10,000 stars in the sky, and then all of a sudden we hear this sound, which sounded like a firecracker. There's this, and we look up in the sky, and there's this object that is it was the size of the moon. It had the radius of the moon, and it was on fire, and it was coming right for us. And I remember it very vividly because I could see the flames shooting all around the outer edges of it as it was coming directly for us. It wasn't like this thing came out of outer space. It just like we would have heard it from thousands of like from miles away. No, this thing was like within seconds. It was like thousands of feet ahead of it, like from us. It was coming right for us, and I just remember hearing the sound. This and next thing I know, because I looked, I did not blink. Next thing I know, it wasn't there. There was just nothing. And it was silence and quiet. And I just went, whoa, what the heck was that? Was that a UFO? And we both were kind of like stunned. We didn't know what the heck had happened. And then we just ended up passing it off, like just forgetting about it, which is really weird.
Right. Yeah. Most people wouldn't do that.
No,
Yeah.
you don't. But from talking to people like Sherry Wild, she said, "I know exactly what you're talking about because that is how they do stuff. Something weird happens. You're driving down the street. Next thing you know, you're parked off to the side, and there's it's like there's no blinking there. It's like as somebody put it, it's like people who have missing time. They call it. It's like a bad movie edit." And I went, "Holy shit! That's exactly what happened to me." It was like a bad movie edit. It was just like, here's the best moment of my life. I get to see some kind of UFO thing is happening, and then next thing I know, it's like it's to the next scene of the movie. Like somebody hit the fast forward button because it wasn't there. It's just like, what just happened? It was like somebody had spliced the film, but I have no conscious memory of anything if there was something. And I still have no memory. And that's how these beings work. They're that good to be able to block your memory. So as I said, I went under hypnosis. We ended up, I could not uncover anything more from that memory. However, what I did uncover was absolutely amazing. What it was, I was asked to go all the way into the future to the last moment that I remember. And I remember fast forwarding, going through this black tunnel, and then I'm met by these three extraterrestrials, these grays, and they're holding this ball of light. But these grays looked much different than what I remember grays looking like, because these ones, their eyes went to the back of their heads, and they looked more insect-like. And I'm like, and I'd never met anything, I never seen anything like this before. I didn't know who they were. And so when Joanne's asking me, like hypnotist, she asked, "What do you see?" I said, "Oh, there's just these three grays holding this ball of light." I didn't even tell her that what I saw was different. That I didn't recognize who these beings were. They looked more insect, like almost like praying mantises. And they hand me this ball of light saying your mission is complete. I take this ball of light, I hold it up my mouth. The ball of light goes into my head and expands, and I just remember seeing this bright light, and I become one with Source. That's the last moment of my existence. I later find out 3 months afterwards, watching a video of a woman called her name's Susie Hansen, and she's been working with Greys, and she's been abducted many times. And then she started talking about the mantis who are overseeing stuff. And I'm like, oh my God. And then she described them, and it says that's exactly who I saw when I was under hypnosis. So it's like I have this connection to the mantis at a unconscious level. Like and you understand more of this about that we are all multidimensional beings.
Right.
And I have some kind of a multidimensional connection, or that I am part mantis or something, because I have a connection to them. I never even knew they existed, yet I saw them when I was under hypnosis. Absolutely fascinating. And then I've spent so many months now trying to track down mantis hybrids, and I'm friends with 2 of them.
Really? That's very interesting. Wow.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we do exist, and I've always said we have soul extensions which exist simultaneously in multidimensional space. I mean, this is what I mean by we're not just here as so-called humans. There's no such thing as a human. We're multidimensional beings in suits, and we have a vast, vast biomolecular design work that's infinite. If people really understood it, and I know mainstream science will catch up in the illusion of it at some point in the continuum, but those of us who understand mystery school teachings and understand that passage, we know we're multiversal, multidimensional beings. We know there's a multiverse that's infinite out there. We know there's multiple species. But what's really fascinating is that when you start linking up to your higher consciousness, oversoul, superconscious, you start retrieving soul extensions, which are parts of you multidimensionally in all the forms and designs out there. And that equates to also other species, which, when sometimes people get downloads and they start shapeshifting, I don't discount that at all because they're able to pull in that soul extension and descend it into the body. And actually, it starts mutating the body to some degree. So that's where the hybrid gets kind of an alter, kind of alters itself to begin with. But I think it's all very, very fascinating. I would write a book on this at some point, if you feel guided to, just because there are a lot of people out there that probably need answers. And if you have answers, then you might want to document some of this stuff, right?
Yeah, well, that's also why having the radio show and having the downloadable podcasts available
Mm-hmm.
will also help when it does come to the being able to write a book on these these people who I've spoken to help put it all together into a cohesive package. I strongly encourage people to check out my radio show at artistfirst.com, and then you'll see it there. It'll say Pyramids on Mars UFO Radio. You can go there, you can download the podcast and listen to them on your own time. What my guests are sharing is profound to your evolution, and just to help even affirm even more what we're talking about. My next guest in December is Sherry Wild,
Nice.
and she has been working. She's been abducted hundreds of times, but her contact, his name is Da. He's a gray. All her entire life, he's been teaching her 3 lessons. And throughout her entire life, and they keep teaching her these 3 important lessons, and these are the lessons that they have taught her. Because that was actually going to be the title of the book, the lessons, 3 lessons. But it ended up, she ended up changing the title and calling it the Forgotten Promise, because she didn't want to release the book. But Da, met with her and said, "Did you forget your promise?" And then she realized, "Oh yeah, I promised before I was born that that we'd be working together and that I'd have to write a book about it."
Oh, wow, that's fascinating. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
well, there are agreements before you enter onto the timeline. We call it a divine ascension blueprint to some degree, but we are able to manipulate that and alter it. And I find it very, very interesting. So we'll have to tune into that one. I'm going to have to make sure I start looking into your show. That's fantastic. I'm so happy for you. I think this is a great avenue in addition to your music, obviously. So, what also comes in is I know I'm very clear that when you break orbit with this illusion of a planet, that you literally lose consciousness, you lose memory insofar as what's here. And so when I talk about people leaving this world or they go on a visitation someplace else and they come back and there's this memory loss, I think a lot of that has to do with the frequencies and the barriers beyond the dimensional space where they're altering they're altering their molecular structure and their frequencies to such an extent they lose consciousness and they lose the recall of being here. So I think there's some rifting going on with quote unquote memory and cellular recall, but very, very interesting all in all. It's fascinating. I know if I were to break orbit with this planet and I go on, like, say, an astronaut and I go take off to another sector, I won't remember anything here. I probably won't even know my name.
Mm.
And I'm pretty sure that happens with astronauts, even though they probably won't admit it. But I suspect if they get that far out, they really lose it. It just basically gets an erasure going on, which is a natural frequency. Because when you're dealing with the harmonics of the multiverse, you've got this universal frequency that just completely negates the programming. And you have to remember that people's memory banks are based on programs, regardless if it's mind control or non-mind control. Everything is a program. And so, if you go into the big generators where the full light universe is, boy, that just blows everything out. If you ask me, that's just my own perception of stuff. So
That's heavy. Yeah.
yeah, it is. But well, let me know next time you go out there. But people do have a lot of missing time, and that's my point too. And I think there's a reason behind that, and it's all frequency based. So maybe I should have simplified it, but yeah.
Well, I'm reading your new book right now, and you talk all about this. So, it's the book isn't necessarily a thick one, but it's definitely the heaviest read that I've read. It's It's awesome. It really is.
You
There's
like
so
it?
much
Good.
information.
I
Yeah.
know a lot of people are liking it, and of course they're expecting this really big book. It's a short story, and of course the science fiction behind it isn't really science fiction because it's a spin-off of my experience with the artificial intelligence array system in 2004, but it's morphed into the perception and what I've actually experienced behind it all. So I'm glad you're reading it, and there's a lot of data in there, a lot of information based on our future and also the symbiotic machine world. So I think people need to understand that. But
Yeah.
I'm glad you're reading it though. 1,000,000 Miles to Midnight, everybody. If you haven't picked up a copy, purchase it, please. I'm plugging my
Mhm.
book. It's a shameless plug, isn't it? Go ahead and plug your music.
No, I purposely said that so you could plug it.
You're cute. I appreciate it. But seriously, tell everybody what your next album's going to be.
Actually, you're gonna love this
Okay, go ahead.
because you've already seen the prototypes for the artwork.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that that picture that I have with the planet Mars, and there's pyramids, and then there's
Oh,
the
yeah.
mantis in front of it.
I love it.
Yeah, so that's a prototype. The real one is going to be a lot. It's going to be much higher definition, but it has a little bit more sacred geometry to it. It's going to have the planet Mars. It's going to have a pyramid right in front of it. At the top where the bases of the pyramid is going to meet with the planet, and it's going to have a picture that Rob Fullington had created of this. It's a gray, and he's holding this energy, which is actually his. It's Rob Fullington's soul, but
Mm.
it's going to have the gray in front of the pyramid, and the title, the new album, is going to be called 432.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, when's that coming out?
2018.
Hurry up. Come on. 2 years from now?
No, 2017. Sorry.
Okay. I'm sorry. No, but it's great. I'm so happy for you. That's going to be great. I can't wait to listen to that one. I was thinking about your pyramids and everything. The correlation you have, and I know it's a very internal, deep spiritual thing with you. But have you ever been over to Egypt at all? Have you ever gone and witnessed those frequencies in person?
Someday I will.
It's on your bucket list. Mine too. I've been there before, not here, not on this timeline, but yeah, I know the place very well. I mean, I'm the type of person that can go over there and I'll know where every corridor is that's hidden that people shouldn't know.
I'll bet you do.
I mean, I'm serious. It's very interesting. I'm pretty sure you probably know too. There's those of us who just are ancient, we're old and we have this archive in us that's what I call the full Akashic. It's not the one that's created by man, but it's the one that's pure energy. It can't be contaminated by man's perception. You know how they like to edit everything here on this timeline, right?
Hmm.
Well, the full Akashic doesn't let you do that. In other words, they can't manipulate it. And that's why those of us who have a lot of knowing, we're not manipulated because we just go with the pure source energy. It's non-contaminated. It's beautiful. So I would encourage you to go. I'd really like to see you do a concert out there by the pyramids. Wouldn't that be cool?
Oh, someday.
I don't know if they allow people to do that. I keep thinking that a few rock and roll bands actually had that ability to do that back in the
Well,
day.
I thought it was really cool when Pink Floyd, played at Pompeii. I mean, that was,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
powerful.
yeah, that was very powerful. I'd like to be able to do something like that too, and tap into the energy of the pyramids.
Well,
That
I think if anybody should be playing their music over there, it probably should be you.
it should be me.
Yeah, you
It
should
should
go in
be.
there because you know what? You know how, well, I guess nowadays, from what I understand, they're not letting people do any type of prayer or toning or meditation in there. Is that what I understand? Unless it's orchestrated or you pay somebody off. But from what I understand, they're not letting people sound in there, like do anything to project or amplify the frequencies in the pyramids.
What, they're not allowed
Tone or,
hum. They used to chant at 432
right.
hertz in the main chamber.
That's what I thought too, but at the same time, I've heard other people tell me that they're not able to do that anymore, that they're starting to crack down on people doing any type of toning in there. However, I have heard of people taking tours in there and being able to do something. So I'm not sure what's going on, but I think they have tried to crack down on people having a resonance with the pyramid or activating it or doing something that's going to amplify their own DNA, which is unfortunate because those pyramids are not just, they're basically for everybody. That's what they're here for, is to amplify, raise the energy. But
That's right.
unfortunately, it's becoming kind of it's almost like a, I don't know, regurgitation of some kind because there's a lot of contamination. But I still think the pyramids are fascinating, and I love the Great Pyramids, my favorite. But
Yep, absolutely. And someday I will go there. And for people, just so they know, yes, the master chamber is actually tuned to 432.
it's not
So
interesting.
if you hum at 432 hertz, the whole room just vibrates.
Yeah. And if you think that doesn't alter your DNA, think again. And everybody knows that who's been there. And that's why they go there. That's why there's always, people go visit because it's an altering of the body, of the molecular, the DNA, and consciousness in general. When you change your frequency, your consciousness shifts. and you know this, Kevin. I know
Mm.
the listeners probably do too. They're very savvy, but some people don't get that. They don't understand it.
They're not listening to the right kind of music.
I'm telling you, they need to listen to your music more and more. But your
Hmm.
music is phenomenal, and it's so nice to listen to. I encourage everybody to, and we have to set you up so that you're out there performing in front of large groups of people. That's got to happen.
It will happen.
I
It's
know.
everything is happening. Is happening at the for the right reasons, and the fact that that I've been approached to have my own radio show is just phenomenal. Having that opportunity,
Hmm.
because that's going to how many musicians have their own radio show on the largest you know radio plan. You
Right.
could be able to go on artistfirst.com. Yeah, other people would have to buy a subscription to Blog Talk Radio and build their audio listening listener audience, listener by listener, and pay tons of sum of money. And then here these guys come and offer me my own radio show, and they already have like 100,000 listeners per every episode of the UFO stuff.
That's
And
wonderful.
so, yeah, so I'm getting exposed to all their listeners. Plus, I've got my 80,000 Twitter followers who I point to there. So it's the show is just growing and growing. It's unstoppable now.
I
It
love it.
really is.
Well, you're a real person too. You're a real being. Let's put it that way. There are a lot of people in the entertainment industry and the music industry that don't have your kind of personality for radio. Seriously, they do the interviews and they're kind of snooty and stuck up, but they don't know how to communicate with people. I mean,
Mm.
most of it's their person, so they have a PR person or something else. They don't know how to have a conversation, a real conversation. They're so integrated into mainstream and in the BS with mainstream, but you're genuine. This is what I like about you, Kevin, and this is why I love truth media. I don't even call it alternative media. We're truth media. And I like this because we're genuine beings. We're not this propaganda. We're not bought and sold. We're real beings here with a lot of information. I think it's great. I just
Mhm.
love it. And that's the whole part of the new frontier and the old paradigms falling away.
Mhm. It's
So that's,
absolutely.
yeah, so I love your show. I'm going to have to tune into it and listen. And I said before, you have a great speaking voice for radio. So that's why I knew you could sing because I can tell by your voice pattern you probably have a good voice. And that's why I tease you. But one of these days I'm going to get Kevin to sing on air, guys. But
I like to I when I get together with my buddy Rick, who we used to be in a band together, we always play Pink Floyd. And so we'll be sitting there singing, playing Animals, and
mhm,
or Wish You Were Here or whatever. We're always, and I will sing. Then I will sing.
nice.
So yes, so I'll
Did
sing
you
for
always
you.
sing when you were little? Did you used to like to sing when you were a kid?
No, I didn't really like singing. I was always more, communicated more through the guitar.
Hmm.
That just was my natural voice, was,
Yeah.
the guitar, and what I'm trying to do on the guitar. And that's why I'm so attracted to classical music, is because, they were so much better at it 300 years ago than they are today. And I'm trying to bring that back,
Hmm.
of that art of how they communicated without words through the melodies and what the
Right.
melodies are doing. And now I'm the melodies I play on the guitar are the same type structure of melodies that are played with violin or harpsichord or cello.
Hmm.
That's what I've been focusing on, and that's why I created the lessons that I do, is to help people break out of their paradigm of how they play guitar.
Hmm.
How can you play melodic? How do you play something beautiful and melodic? Well, you know what? Listen to Bach, listen to Vivaldi, listen to Beethoven, listen to what these guys were doing and how they were able to create melody. Listen to any classical music. That's
Yeah.
all I listen to. I listen to 96.3 FM in Toronto, which is all classical. And this is important because I found out that they're actually the largest radio show with the largest amount of money behind
Hmm.
them. And they have like 2 million listeners. So what does that tell you? That
Wow.
tells you that people are awakening.
Hmm.
Classical music is the most popular music still.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I love classical music. It's interesting that point you make out because it is the music. Music is the voice of the soul, in my opinion. It's an extension of energy and consciousness. And what's interesting is back then, well, of course, they didn't have the interference of technology like we have today. They didn't have all the satellites bouncing around and all this interference that's happening. So there was a pure connection to what I would say their source energy, to their own inspiration, where they were hearing the silence of their own consciousness and spirit and soul, and they were able to interpolate all that. I just find it fascinating. I love classical music too, and I'm glad that you bring that up to in the show because so many people out there, they think music of today is the mainstream garbage, and that's not even music. My goodness, I don't know what to call it, Kevin. I can't call it music. It's not music. I mean, I've been writing. I was playing the flute by, well, I took lessons, but I initially was playing by ear because I have an ear for music, so I can replicate anything I hear. But
Mhm.
seriously, when you look and see what people do today, I don't know what they're doing. I guess whatever you want to call it, it's not music to me. But you play music, you create music, and I can appreciate that and respect that about you. And I encourage the classical music too, that people listen to it. It's just beautiful, very
Yeah.
peaceful.
Yep. I absolutely agree.
I love harpsichords. They're one of my favorite instruments.
Someday I'm gonna own a harpsichord.
Yeah, they're great, aren't
Someday.
they? Yeah, they're beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, I already made. They already decided that if I ever live to retirement,
Mhm.
that I want to learn to play classical piano and classical harpsichord,
Oh,
so I can
nice.
play everything I hear. Play the Bach that I listen to. If I can actually be able to play that on the piano, I think that I would actually turn into pure light and disappear off this planet.
Probably, you probably will. Well, you do play other instruments, right? So what other instruments do you play?
Well, I play all the instruments on my album, so
Okay.
I play all the guitars, I play bass, I play the keyboards, and I do all the drum programming. So I can't play drums, but I definitely can write drums.
I don't know. I think that people, anybody can play drums, in my opinion. I know that's arrogant, but literally, if you have rhythm, you can play drums, right?
Probably, I just don't have the physical coordination. When I sit in front of a drum kit
Hmm.
to play what it is that I hear in my head. I can I can program drums great because I know exactly what it is that I hear, and
Hmm.
I write these very complex polyrhythmic type of drum beats and stuff, but I can't actually sit there and physically play them. I just that's limitation for me. But I can play keyboards, I can play bass. I
Yeah.
can I can think like a bass player. I'm a musician, so I'm not just one instrument. I listen to all the instruments,
Hmm.
and bands that I grew up with. I really pay attention not just to the guitar, but to the bass, to the drums, how it all works together.
I love music too. I'm glad we're touching on this tonight because it's very important. Sometimes we forget the beauty of life, the simplicity of life, which is really music is one of them. Nature is another one. Love, unconditional love, just being a loving person and having a loving environment. Those are components that I think are very, very critical. And music is huge because I can't imagine a world without real music. And yet at the same time, I kind of see it. I don't want to say it's fading away, but it seems to me like this it's changed to such a strange design. And this is why I like the fact that you're going back to the 432, that you're bringing it back to where it needs to be for people to understand it on a
Back
more spiritual level.
back into alliance,
Yeah,
back into
exactly.
alignment.
Yeah, absolutely. Because that's crazy, that 440 thing. But it strikes me as what comes to mind is how plants absorb energy and consciousness, and if you play really nice music around them or anything peaceful, even classical, they tend to grow and they grow. But if you play something a little more harsh, like really hard, spiky rock and roll, say, or something that's not obviously not calibrated correctly, they don't do as well. So once again, it's energy, it's consciousness, it's how things receive transmissions.
Hmm.
It's really fascinating when you think about it. It's all harmonics. Every bit of it's harmonics.
Yep.
One thing I was going to ask you, when you've had your experience with these other species or any of the people you interview, do they ever talk about music out there? Like, is there a sound? Is there a harmonic? Is there a frequency associated?
We think. Oh, music wise, it's hard for me to. It's hard to say.
Hmm.
Um,
I was just curious if there's any type of a frequency or a sound associated with some of these um, visitations.
I don't know.
Okay. Well, you
I
might want
don't
to think
know.
about it next time you interview somebody. Just ask them. I mean,
Hmm.
not that I'm telling you how to interview, but seriously, I'm curious. I'm curious to see if there's anything associated with frequency and sound that these people are experiencing when they're getting picked up.
Yeah, I'd like to find out too.
Hmm. Because you're opening up a lot of portals through your own consciousness and energy. Anybody who has music like that, who does that kind of music and amplification, that's the whole idea with the Atlanteans and the ancient ones. They used to be able to move things through frequency and sound, and they used to be able to do a lot more, heal, open up, stargates and doorways. I mean, this sounds esoteric and out there, you guys, but seriously, that's the whole capability behind it.
It is.
So it's
It's
not
true.
it's not woo woo. I mean, seriously. So I'm wondering with the music that you do, I mean, seriously, you must be opening up a bunch of things. Even if you don't see it, it's probably happening. And this is what I mean by other people too, who are, connected. Once you connect with the visitors, it would seem to me like you have some kind of a time tunnel or some kind of a stargate activated, so you can constantly go back and forth. You have a place to navigate, to traverse.
Well, I think if I remember from one of our conversations about frequency is that if by hitting the right frequency, it actually does activate DNA,
Hmm.
because there's many portions of our DNA which are inactivated. Yet 432, and I believe, from what I remember, is that DNA actually um, splits at 8 hertz, around 8 hertz. 432 is a harmonic of 8 hertz.
Hmm.
So I'm sure that, the way it works is that by hitting the right frequencies, you actually are literally activating DNA and
Hmm.
unlocking certain things which were previously
Hmm.
locked.
I agree. Yeah, the body responds to that frequency. There's no doubt about it. And
It's
that
like a
goes for
yeah.
healing, too. When people are getting healed, if you're working with them on that universal scale, that's why the meridians start opening and spinning correctly. And it's really fascinating.
Hmm.
There's no doubt. We have about 15 minutes here, plus or minus. It just goes by so quickly when I talk to you. But I want to make sure everybody has ability to access how to get in touch with you first of all, and let's talk about your radio show, how to listen, and
Yes.
let's how to access your wonderful lessons too.
Sure, absolutely, yes. Okay, so everything can be found. You can get in touch with me through my website at www.pyramidsonmars. As I said, all my music is there. There's links to my lessons through my website. All my radio interviews are on there. All my magazine interviews are on there. But follow me on Twitter too. It's very important to follow me on Twitter, which is at pyramidsonmars_. And I've got a huge Twitter following. Um, as I said, it's about 80,000. But what's more important, or what's even more significant, is that since January 1st, 2000, beginning of this year, I've had over, I've had about 6 million tweet views.
Wow, that's beautiful. See,
Yeah,
well, with all of those people, you're going to have to do a big live concert somewhere.
exactly.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
already
it's
there. They're
it's
already there.
they're there. It's just a matter now of someday, being approached by some record company to give me a shot
Well, maybe you should
at
be
the
the
big
record
time.
company. Do you ever think that maybe you just do it yourself? That's if you want to get
That's
it done right.
that's well, you know what? That's what I have been doing for the last
I
six
know.
years. Is I actually am more I've been more of a record label than I have been of a musician. Probably only 5% of my time is actually spent with music, and at these days that's just picking up a guitar and just practicing to keep my chops up, because 95% of my time I'm managing a label. I'm managing Pyramids on Mars. I spend all my time marketing, and that's the majority of what I do is marketing.
And you have a
Marketing,
product to market too. That's the beauty of it. You really have something very, very significant that I think that everybody would love.
very tangible, very tangible.
Very much so.
Uh, I've got my lessons now, which people have to check out. The subscription is dirt cheap. As I said, you pay $16 for a guitar lesson. Well, guess what? You can get access to all my lessons on my website for the price of $10.99 a month subscription.
That's great. That's a
You-
steal. I think it's more than that actually. Private lessons, or at least I can imagine they're like $35 an hour. Back in the day, I bet they charge more than that now.
Yeah, anybody can look it up. Look it up on any. Go look up any lesson and find out how much they are.
It's
You're
not
not
you
gonna.
that's teaching too.
Yeah.
Makes a difference because what you do is far beyond most people. Sorry, but it's true. So,
Yeah, this taps into spiritual development.
hmm.
This is all about spiritual, and about, even the guitar side. It's the stuff I teach. I teach you to see guitar from a completely different perspective, because I teach symmetrical scales. I teach I teach stuff that's, classically influenced. Um, just go listen to the stuff I'm doing. I am my best student. I go and I still listen to my I'll go listen to the trailers, and I'll get inspired by listening to my own stuff. It's like, that's so
Right.
cool sound. I gotta learn that. Wait a sec, I know that one. I wrote it.
Should be proud of that. There are a lot of people out there who are too selfish to teach others. But what I love about you is that you share what you know to help everybody. Everybody, regardless if it's your style, once they start learning, it'll be their own style. They'll create. It's like martial arts. You put your own energetic signature into it. So
That's
I really can applaud you for doing that, Kevin. I think that there are a lot of people out there who are looking for guidance, and even through a guitar lesson can help them on a different level. So it's really
Thank
wonderful
you.
that you're doing that.
Thank you. Thank you
Yeah,
so
I think
much.
you're a good soul anyway. You know that. You're one of my special people, star people that I love to communicate with and interview. So you know that.
Well, we're always we're there's a reason why you and I have been we see each other on Facebook
Oh God, just
every
ignore my.
day.
I'm always blah on Facebook.
I know, but the thing is, look at it from this point, is that the way Facebook works with the algorithms is that you only see the top 5% of the people that you follow. Well, you and I see each other every day, and we have for the last 12 months. What's that say?
I don't know
It
something.
says that we're on the same frequency.
Yeah, I
Because
guess so. Yeah, that's funny.
yeah, otherwise, why would we see each other every day?
Yeah,
And
that's true.
and yeah, that's so. There you go.
That's a good sign. I was going to ask you something a little different here. I've been getting some information. You probably saw this too coming across your Facebook, but some people in different parts of the world are getting unusual compass readings, and they're getting something's shifting really quick. Have you noticed anything strange with compass activity in your location?
Personally, I haven't, but I did see you mentioned something about that. I was kind of curious to find out what you're finding or what's going on.
Well, I'm not sure. I just I'm getting information based on people's compasses are just going haywire in certain locations, and I'm trying to find more information before I kind of address it. But I don't really have enough information to really communicate it. But I just thought it was interesting because it seems to me like it's more New Zealand and Australia. And I might want to even ask. Well, Shiny Side Out's coming up next, but they might want to look into that, see if they've noticed anything strange. I do know obviously we're having shifting going on with magnetic north and such like that, but something else is moving and it's telling me there's something afoot. So I'll keep an
Well,
eye on it. Go ahead.
you mentioned New Zealand. Susie Hansen's from New Zealand, and then she's been giving a lot of Facebook updates. New Zealand had a major earthquake just in the last week,
Hmm.
like a 7.4 on the Richter scale.
Right. Yeah. So maybe that has something to do with it.
Maybe there's something going on.
Yeah. I mean, obviously there's certain there are times when the compass goes haywire, but I'm just curious if everybody's getting that. I haven't really tracked it as much, but I'm going to start tracking my compass a little bit more to see if I notice anything that's significant insofar as something moving. So, yeah, it'll
Mm.
be very, very interesting. There's no doubt about that. But you are also a prophetic dreamer, would you say? I mean, do you get dreams that come to pass, you think, or no?
You know what, Solaris? I had this amazing dream this week. Something that happened. Because I have three children, and we're having a lot of difficulty with our oldest, and we've been working with a therapist, and she was helping us with understanding empathy and what empathy is, and that we need to be more empathetic with him to be able to unlock him and help have him come closer to us so that he's not so defiant and stuff. And she told us about empathy and even played a clip from the movie, that latest Pixar movie, with all the feelings and stuff he's talking inside the
Uh-huh.
girl's head,
Mm-hmm.
whatever that one is. Anyway, and then that night I had this absolutely horrible dream. I would refer to it as a nightmare. It wasn't a scary nightmare. It was just one of those dreams that you have where there's a lot of upsetting things that happen that hit you at a core level.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was having a fight with my brother and he was attacking me at the core, and I just end up packing up and just walking away and driving away. And when I woke up, I was feeling so horrible and so upset. And then Lisa, she happened to be awake, and I decided, I could do one of the two things. I could just turn over and go to sleep in this upset state that I was, or I can talk to her. And I did talk to her, and I told her about it, and she was so empathetic to me,
Mm.
and that I felt like that the yuck inside me dissipated and actually left. And then it occurred to me, my God, this is exactly what our therapist was trying to teach us. But I would have never, we both of us would have never gone through the process if I hadn't come to her and she was empathetic with me. And then we both had this epiphany of, oh my God, this is how we're going to be able to help our child.
Mm-hmm.
This is what empathy is. And I've been starting to do this week, and I'm starting to see a huge change in him. So it's like the universe communicates to you,
Mm-hmm.
but you have to listen to it.
Oh, absolutely.
I could have easily have ignored that whole that nightmare and just been upset about it, and and took it as a negative. That's the thing with everything in life. You can look at something as positive or negative. It's how you look at it. But there's always a
Mm-hmm.
positive to the negative. And in that whole negative energy of that dream, it was released, and I saw the beautiful light of it because I realized this is what empathy is about. I was supposed to have this horrible dream to be able to help my child.
Mm-hmm. That's really
And
powerful, Kevin.
epiphany.
Yeah.
It was like our ET guardians, our guardian angels. They're all the same. They communicate this through you, and it's like, okay, is he going to learn his lesson? You have to listen to the universe. It's about synchronicity. It's about everything. The universe will speak to you.
Absolutely. You're so wise. Well, I'll tell you what, it's been a pleasure to have you on tonight. Always a pleasure and an honor. And I just wish you all the success. And I know you have it at your back. Also, are you doing any lectures anytime soon? I know you were kind of touching on the UFO, the possibility of lecturing at a UFO conference. Are you going to do anything like that?
If I get called to, I will.
Okay.
It could possibly be in the future at the Alien Cosmic Exhibition in Brantford. Joanne knows me quite well, and actually this year, I thought she actually was going to approach me and ask me if I'm going to. I'm sure it will happen
Mm-hmm.
in the very near future.
Yeah, I think it'd be great. Well, considering, and I can put you in touch with some people too if you're interested in doing that. So
That would be great.
I think you definitely need to be out there and you need to be talking. Well, you're like I said before, I can't believe how much you keep growing and morphing and evolving. Every time I communicate with you, you've got so many things happening. So every time it's like it's another dimensional frequency connecting in. It's beautiful. It's really nice to see. There's no doubt about that. So I do want to thank you for joining us tonight. It's been a pleasure.
Oh, thank you, Solaris. I'm so glad to be here.
Yeah, my pleasure. And I'll have to have you back, of course. Everybody loves you, as you know. And also, I want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight here at Revolution Radio. Stay tuned for Shiny Side Out with David Dunter and Becky coming up next to sell you on tonight from Down Under, as they always do with their incredible show. So make sure you tune in for them. And do you have any final words, Kevin? We have about 2 minutes here, plus or minus. Is there anything else you want to touch on real quick before we phase into another dimensional space?
Yes, everyone, you have to listen to Solaris. She knows what she's talking about. Trust me.
Well, thank you. Well, that's very kind of you. Even when I get ballistic about politics, guys, I won't steer you wrong. Trust me. And I do want to wish everybody a very happy Thanksgiving. And Kevin, I don't know if you guys really celebrate, do you? You don't celebrate in Canada.
We do, but we had our Thanksgiving earlier than you guys.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we have ours around the middle of October.
That's right. Yeah, well, okay. That's right. I forget. How's your winery?
Oh, Solaris, I got the most amazing Ruby Cabernet this year. Holy cow.
Wow, this is why I'm going to come visit you guys sometime.
Oh, I made such an awesome wine this year. It's so tasty. It's so good. In fact, it was so good that I actually ended up when I was putting it in the carboy and I was still pressing it off the grapes, I was actually drinking it straight off the grapes. It was that good.
You don't make mead, do you? Mead wine?
Not yet.
Okay.
Oh, that reminds me. I just heard about there's some place in the United States they were buried in Germany. It was buried with this old cauldron, this ancient cauldron. They had several samples of this old ancient mead. They were able to reverse engineer it, and they're now creating it commercially in the United States.
Really? Wow, I didn't see that article.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm going to have to look for it. Do you remember the name of it or anything like that?
No, I can't remember.
Oh, I'll have to research it. Well, thank you, Kevin. It's been a pleasure, everybody. Thanks for tuning in tonight. Be safe. Have a happy Thanksgiving, and be kind to each other and animals, and don't drink and drive. All right, everybody. Thanks. Thank you, Kevin.
Thanks, Loris.